Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Let's Make a Better World. I'm your host, David Tear. I think you guys all know by now that Trump won the presidential election last night. I didn't find out about it till this morning. I watched till about 10:30. It looked pretty clear to me that he was going to win by then. I think he had 247 electoral votes to, Harris's like 210. But then, it looked like he was winning in most of the battleground states. So I kind of figured it was a shoe-in for him at that point. And it turned out I was right. He did win. He won. It was a close election. I mean, Harris gave a really good shot. She did really well, I think. I think Trump also won in popular votes, which kind of surprised me. This is the first election he ever did that. Uh, and I think, I don't know what the final electoral vote count was. I think I heard Trump got 286, which I guess means that Harris would have gotten 252. Pretty close race. But unfortunately, no cigar for Harris. Um, but so anyway, today I just want to talk to how I think we need to deal with this. I mean, I think most people on this channel are were pro Harris. I think most of you guys are probably at least leaning to the left. I know I've had some Trump supporting stragglers on this channel. Maybe some of the regular people might even also be. I don't know. I mean, I do have a couple of friends who like Trump. Even my best friend. He never actually told me that he voted for Trump, but I'm like 99% sure he did. But he's still my best friend, and I respect his decision to vote for Trump, even though I completely disagree with it. He had his reasons. He is a libertarian. I'm not. I'm a democratic socialist. And it's fine. We're all entitled to our own opinions and our own views. And that's why I think, ballots are secret. We don't have to tell people who we're voting for. And it's probably a good idea that we don't in general because, I've heard there's two taboo subjects, religion and politics. Those are probably the two biggest taboo subjects in the world. Sex used to be one too. I don't even think sex is a taboo subject anymore. It's in Disney movies now. It's been Disney movies since the '80s, ever since Splash, which featured Daryl Hannah naked in front of the Statue of Liberty. Go figure, that was a Disney movie. There's a lot of sex in it too. I think Tom Hanks had some pretty good sex with her in that movie. She did turn out to be a mermaid. I'm rambling right now, but let's get back to the election and Trump. So, how can we deal with Trump and Trumpism? It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy for any of us. I mean, I've compared him to Hitler in several of my videos before. He has a lot of similarities to Hitler, but I don't think he's going to be the next Hitler. I mean, you know what? I heard something really interesting on the news last night. The news reporter said, "Yeah, Trump. Maybe he does want to be a dictator. He doesn't seem to respect our democracy. He is very, very power hungry. He always has been. But he's not Hitler. I mean, one thing about Hitler wanted order. He wanted his new world order. He wanted a horrible order based on, his idea of creating a master race and killing all the Jews in the world and, having the world run by an Aryan master race. That is not what Trump wants to do. If anything, Trump's more the opposite. Trump is creating chaos. I mean, you know, and I don't feel as threatened by chaos as I do by evil order. I do think Trump is evil, but I don't think he's going to be an evil dictator, trying to create some horrible new world order like Hitler did. There've been a lot of dictators throughout history. And, there've been even a few, I don't want to say there's ever been a good dictator, but there have been good monarchs throughout history. I can think of several. I mean, you know, um, I guess Queen Elizabeth the First, from what I hear, was pretty good. King Louis the 14th, they called him the Sun King. I don't like the idea of monarchy, but there have been good monarchs in the past. I think even Julius Caesar was a pretty good monarch. So, but I don't want to get into that. I do respect our democracy. I guess I'm just trying to say that It might not be the hell we think it'll be under Trump. And the other thing is, I don't think that our government will allow him to become a dictator. And we have to do our part to make sure he doesn't too. Don't forget that. We live in a country of the people, by the people, and for the people. And don't forget that you're a part of that government. You have power. We all have power. Not just the power to vote, but the power of free speech. We can demonstrate, we can say what we want. We can say what we're unhappy about. We can, form organizations, coalitions. We can work with our friends to get things done. We can do all this legally within our Constitution. At least right now we can. So we might as well take advantage of some of our democratic rights while we can, as long as we're a democracy. I mean, the demonstrators did that during the 60s and eventually got us out of Vietnam. People have done some pretty amazing things in our history, so don't forget that. You have power. We all do. But, another thing I want to say is that, I have some psychological issues myself. For one thing, I'm on the spectrum. I have Asperger's syndrome, but, I think I have other problems with that. I think I have a lot of anticipatory anxiety. I kind of, imagine that things are going to just get really, really bad. And, it doesn't help to anticipate. I mean, there's a very good book by Eckhart Tolle. It's called The Power of Now. He argues in this book that there's only really one time that matters, the present. People who are too obsessed with the past tend to be depressed. People who are too obsessed with the future tend to be anxious. And I think by worrying about what Trump might do, I think most of us are kind of worried about that. That makes us anxious, and that's not healthy. We can only do what we can do, and we can only do things right now. Think about that. So I think what we all have to do in dealing with Trump or dealing with anything in life is do what we can right now. We can all do really good things if we set our mind to it. So do what you can right now. And, as far as the past and the future go, I think the only way the past serves us is we have to learn lessons from the past. We have to learn lessons for ourselves. And it doesn't do any good to blame anybody for bad things that happen in the past. I think we all do this. I've done it a big part of my life, probably most of my life. I blame my parents most of my life for all this shit they put me to as a kid. But you know what? Doesn't do any good. Doesn't do one bit of good. Because you can't change the past. What happened, happened. It's unfortunate a lot of bad things have happened, but bad things have happened to all of us. And it doesn't do any good to blame anybody for it, because by doing that, I mean, think about it. You're becoming like Trump and his supporters if you do that. Or you're becoming like Hitler. That's exactly what the Nazis did. The Nazis blamed the Jews for their problems, at the beginning of the Depression. And Hitler fed into their anger at the Jews, and they're blaming him for the bad economy. It doesn't do any good to blame. Don't blame anybody for anything. Just do what you can on your own. Try to. I mean, here's how the past can serve us. Blaming is bad. I've already established that. But what you can do is you can learn to not repeat the same mistakes. Mostly your own mistakes. And don't get me wrong on this. We all make mistakes. I've made tons and tons of mistakes my whole life. I even made mistakes as a child. But another thing you shouldn't do, don't blame yourself. I was just a child. I had a lot of hardships in my life, but I didn't know how to deal with them properly because I was just a little kid. I'm on the spectrum too. I'm not a neurotypical. I can't connect naturally with other people. So naturally, a lot of shit happened to me when I was a kid. But I'm done blaming. I'm done blaming my parents. They did the best they could. They loved me. They had good intentions. I got bullied, but I haven't seen the kids that bullied me in over 40 years, so I don't care what's going on with them. And yeah, I made mistakes. I didn't deal with them in the right way. I wasn't strong enough. I was too weak. The way I dealt with being bullied and being, all this shit from my parents, I retreated in a daydream world of math. I mean, that actually did serve me in a lot of ways. That's part of the reason I'm a big math genius. But basically, I was trying to escape from the real world. I'm not doing that anymore. It was a big mistake. And I did it for years. I probably did it for like the first 20 or 30 years of my life. I didn't do much to live, you know. It's probably why I didn't have a lot of girlfriends. It's probably why I was very lonely. You know, I isolated myself. I realize now that was a mistake. So I'm not going to do it anymore. See, I'm trying to become a better person. I'm trying to learn from my mistakes. At the same time, I'm not blaming myself or anybody else. It just happened. A lot of unfortunate things happen to me. And I'm not alone. Unfortunate things have happened to all of us. I mean, I think you guys all know the last big unfortunate thing that I think happened to all of us was Trump won this election. But don't blame anybody for it. You know, what happened happened. Just move on. You know, so that's the only way the past can serve us, to learn lessons from the past. And you know, Winston Churchill, I think another guy, had a very famous quote about that. He said, "Those who don't learn a lesson from history are doomed to repeat it." Now it looks like we are repeating a lot of mistakes from history. We just elected a madman, but you know, we made a big mistake electing Trump, or at least some of us did, the ones who voted for him. But, you know, hopefully enough of us aren't repeating the same mistakes from the past. I think we have learned a lot from history. I like to think we have. I think things have been getting better and better throughout history. Of course, we've had setbacks. But I think, you know, I wouldn't want to be living just about any time in the past. The only time I've ever really wanted to live in the past was the 1960s. It was a very progressive time, but there's a lot of shit going on then, as I think you all know. I mean, horrible demonstrations. I probably would have demonstrated, but I probably would have gotten beaten the shit out of by cops, you know. Either that or maybe I would have been drafted into Vietnam. And I don't know if I would have had enough courage to burn my draft card and, you know, stay home or try to sneak into Canada, you know. And believe me, I thought about leaving this country if Trump won this election, but I'm not going to do that. And it's not just because my mom feels threatened if I do that. You know, it's more that I think it's running away from the problem. I'm going to stay right here in the United States. I mean, we don't know yet. That's another thing. I just talked about the past. Now let me talk about the present and the future. None of us know what's going to happen in the future. It's easy to get scared. It's either easy to either get excited or get scared. Believe me, I've thought about the future a lot my whole life. You know, most of my life I've tried to be an optimist. You know, at least when I was a kid and when I was a teenager, I used to imagine we're going to live in an amazing utopian future. You know, I mean, you know, a lot of people believe this. Like in the 50s and 60s, a lot of people thought by now, you know, most of us would be living in outer space. You know, we'd have these space colonies in orbit and, lunar bases and missions to Jupiter, all that stuff in 2001. A lot of other sci fi, too. A lot of people believed all that was going to happen, and it didn't. I mean, a little bit of it happened, but not that much of it. We didn't, you know, most of us are still living here on Earth, and it seems like the problems we're having here on Earth are just as big, maybe even bigger than they were when I was a kid, you know. And we probably do need to fix a lot of our problems on Earth first, you know. But you know, I mean, what am I trying to say right now? I've thought a lot about the present and the future, and you know, but we can't expect. We don't know what's going to happen in the future. None of us do, and the future is what we make of it. I mean, we have, you know, it's like I love this quote by Gandhi. I've said this quote many times. We must be the change we wish to see in the world. If we want to live in a better future, we have to have a vision in mind and we have to do our part to make that vision come true. We have to make our dreams come true. You know, kind of like they said on Laverne and Shirley, making our dreams come true. I know that sounds really corny, but, you know, thinking about the 50s a lot these days. I know that Trump and a lot of supporters want to turn the clock back in the United States to the 1950s. And like I've said before, you know, it's this distorted nostalgia. The 50s weren't so great. I don't want to live in the 50s again, and I think most women don't. I mean, women deserve reproductive rights. I know that Trump wants to take them away from us. I'm pro-choice. I think women have have a right to do what they want with their bodies. I mean, you know, I do agree that abortion should be legal at least up to the third trimester. I mean, yeah, I guess you could argue that you're killing a living being, a fetus, but we kill animals all the time. We eat them, and they're not fully developed human beings. I mean, I wouldn't encourage it, but you have to think about the problems you're solving by legalizing abortion, and I think the problems you solve are much better than the problems you create. At least that's what I believe, and you know, but I mean, I don't want to get into political issues too much right now. All I'm trying to say right now is that right now, I mean, he's not even president yet. Okay, not that much has changed. All we know is that he is going to be our next president. He will be president number 47. Barring unforeseen circumstances like maybe his assassination, in which case Vance will be president's dead, which I don't think is any better, maybe even worse. But, it's very, very likely he will be our next president. We elected him. And we just have to deal with that one step at a time, one day at a time. And, things aren't any different right now. Just do everything we can at the time. And I'm glad about what I did. I did my part to try to support Harris and try everything in my power to make sure that she won the election. But I'm just one person. My efforts were very limited, but I'm still proud of what I did. I spent 3 weeks campaigning at the Democratic headquarters here in Las Vegas. I even got to see Amy Klobuchar and the Democratic senator from Nevada, Jackie Rosen. By the way, she won. She is now senator of Nevada, so I'm proud of that. I mean, this election wasn't a total disaster. There are a lot of Democratic senators and governors that won various states, and I know they're very happy about them in their states. And you know, I mean, it's not just Trump. The other bad news is that the both the House and the Senate have a Republican majority now. So we have We're going to have a Republican president and majorities in the House and Senate, not to mention the 6 out of 9 Republican people on the Supreme Court, 3 of whom Trump handpicked and gave them immunity. I mean, things are pretty shitty. It's pretty easy to see that. But, just try to think about what you guys can do now. I'm proud of what I did campaigning for Harris. I did what I needed to do at the moment. I played I did what I could. And I've done other things. I've been politically active. I've done a lot of political activity my whole life, starting in the 80s. I went to 2 political demonstrations in the 80s. I think I mentioned this in some previous videos. In 1986, I marched in downtown Chicago for peace, jobs, and justice. And then in 87, I went to an even bigger demonstration in Washington, D.C. 100,000 people there were like 30 or 40 busloads of demonstrators, probably more than that, because each bus can like probably hold about 100 people at the most. But there's 100,000 people gathered in the Ellipse, this big elliptical shaped park in the Mall of Washington D.C. We were all there for about an hour before we marched, and we even got to hear Peter, Paul, and Mary start us off with about a half an hour long concert. It was wonderful. And I don't know how many guys have ever demonstrated, but it's a pretty powerful feeling like you're part of a big group making a change. And I think you are making a change by demonstrating. You might not realize it, but um, you know, I like to think that I played a very small role in bringing about the end of apartheid. We don't have apartheid anymore, and I'm glad we don't. I think that was big progress, and I'm glad that I played a small part in helping that happen. And we can help other good things happen too. I was hoping to help Kamala become our next president, but that didn't work. But, you know, other things I can do, and the other things we can all do. Don't forget that. So just think about what you can do right now, you know, and, there's always hope too. No matter how bad things are, there's always hope. And another thing I've kind of learned recently, I think things are never so bad that you can't laugh about what's going on. I mean, I know this from, there was a very good movie with Robin Williams came out maybe 20, 30 years ago was called Jacob the Liar. I don't know how many guys saw that movie. Very, very sad movie. He was a Jew, in a Jewish ghetto in Poland. They were about to round up the ghetto to the, everybody, the concentration camps. But at the very beginning of the movie, he tells a joke. He said that this gypsy goes to Hitler, or no, Hitler goes to a gypsy, and he asks the gypsy, on what day will I die? And the gypsy says, you're going to die on a Jewish holiday. It was a fortune teller, actually, not a gypsy. He had to kill it. But, anyway, Hitler said, how do you know that? And the fortune teller said, any day you die will be a Jewish holiday. So that was pretty funny, and this was going on during the Holocaust. So if you can laugh at things like that, you can laugh at anything. And I'm watching comedy news these days. You probably get as objective news watching like Bill Maher or the Colbert Report, or the Daily Show. I mean, they tell you what's going on, and then they joke about it. And it's a lot more fun than watching real news like on CNN or CNNBC or whatever you're watching. And then, most of that's not even really that objective anyway. It's all opinions now. Even there's sort of left biased news and right biased news. I think the right bias is much more biased. Fox News, I don't think is even news. It's just entertainment. It's a little bunch of stories they like to tell and they like you want to believe. It's for Trump supporters, basically. There's a lot of fake news, and there's fake news on both sides, but at least we know things that are happening. We know events. We all do know what happened on January 6, 2002, or 2001, when, Trump supporters tried to take over the Capitol. At least he won't have to do that this time because it's already in there. But we know things that are going on. We know about the two people that tried to assassinate him. What I don't know for sure, I think the first one was probably staged. I don't know this for a fact, but I wouldn't be surprised if Trump himself staged that. He probably hired someone to shoot at him. He got the intelligence from the FBI that there was a sniper, and he probably knew that was going to happen and ducked. He had time to duck and allowed the sniper to fire. I think that was probably a staged thing. I don't think the second assassination attempt was staged because, who'd be stupid enough to try to kill him on his own golf course? That probably wasn't some sicko who did that, but, whatever. I mean, we kind of know what's going on. We know the events. What we don't know is like, our opinion about it. And we all have different opinions. And not news, you hear opinions all the time now. I remember when news used to be a lot more objective and with Walter Cronkite in the 60s and 70s. He told it like it is. And he ended every news broadcast said that's the way it is. And pretty much was. He wasn't really biased one way or another. He just told the stories. And unfortunately, we don't have news like that. But that was back in the 60s and 70s when there were only three major TV networks: NBC, ABC, and CBS. Those are the only networks that broadcast the news back then. You had to watch one of those three channels, maybe all of them, but that was all the news information you were getting. Now there's thousands of news sources all over the place. You don't know what kind of news you're getting. And for the most part, people are getting the kind of news they want to get. People are getting the information they want to hear. A lot of it's not even their choice. A lot of it's just because of the social network, the way it's set up, the algorithm, what Facebook and other social networks use. It's geared towards us. So we're not, it's not really intentional. It's just a marketing ploy. But we most of us get the news we want to get, and so we're getting a lot of misinformation that kind of makes us feel a certain way. But I don't know the best way to deal with that. I told you how I'm dealing with it. I'm just watching comedy news. And that's good enough for me. I'll keep watching it and I'll keep being entertained by it and I'll keep knowing what's going on. And, do you want to say anything about the future? Just we don't know what's going to happen in the future. We can plan for okay, here's what I want to say about the future. So the future serves us because we all have dreams. We all have goals. And our dreams are in the future. Our dreams are things we want to accomplish in the future. And it's good to have dreams. I think we need dreams. I think without dreams, we couldn't function. That's both literally true and figuratively true. Without nighttime dreams, we'd go insane. We need REM sleep. We need to dream. This has been proven, I think, scientifically with a lot of neurological experiments. We know that we all go in REM sleep, and we also know that if we were deprived of that, we would go crazy because there's experiments that have been done proving all this. But even in the abstract sense, we need to dream. We need we need we need to feel like our life has a purpose. I think all of our lives do have a God-given purpose. I do believe in God now, not the biblical God. I'm not going to get into religion here. I hate the Bible. That's all I'm going to say about it. I hate the Bible, and I don't believe in it. There's some good quotes. The best thing I can say about the Bible is there's some good quotes about how to live a good life and be a good person. And that's fine. If you want to, believe in it more than that, you're perfectly welcome to do it. I have no right to criticize people who believe in the Bible. That's probably most people in the West. And if it helps you live a good life, that's fine. That's all I'm going to say about that. But, if it's any consolation, I do believe in God. But I'm a pantheist. I guess you could say I have my own belief in God. I think God is the universe. I don't believe in creation either. I think God is the universe, and I think he's kind of the sum of all consciousness to the universe. And don't forget that the universe is humongous. I mean, we're just a tiny little planet. We're only 8,000 miles in diameter. And it's true that, for if you look at human history, just about everybody who's ever lived has lived on planet Earth. Just a few people, maybe I think less than 1,000 people, have been to outer space. So they're part of a very, very elite group. And only 12 people have walked on the moon. Only, I think, 24 people have been to the moon, even orbited the moon. So most of us have been confined to this planet our whole life. But think about this, we're just a tiny little planet. You can't even see the Earth from Neptune. And Neptune's in our own solar system. I mean, the observable universe, we don't even know if that's a whole universe, but the observable universe, that's just the part of the universe that we can observe because light, as I said, enough time to reach us from it. That is 46.5 billion light years radius, 93 billion light years in diameter. I mean, that's like, I don't even know how many orders of magnitude bigger than the Earth. I think I could figure it out. It's about 10 to the 26 meters. The Earth is 10 to the 10 to the seventh meter. So 19 orders of magnitude. That's 10, that's a number with 19 zeros. That's how much bigger linear size the observable universe is than our own little planet here. Universe is huge, you know, and I guess that's another reason I don't believe in the Bible, because according to the Bible, God is just the God of this planet, and they didn't even know the Earth was round. Okay, their world was very limited. In the ancient times, people's worlds were very, very limited. We know now that the universe is much bigger and vaster than we ever thought. And I don't think we're the only intelligent beings in the universe either. The universe is probably teeming with intelligent extraterrestrial civilizations that we haven't yet discovered. And I don't think most of us resemble us in any way. I also don't believe God created man in his own image. I think it's a very chauvinistic belief. Even in sci-fi shows, I think most aliens look too human. I don't think most intelligent aliens are bipeds. They are on Star Trek, but that's just because it's easier to hire human actors to be bipeds. I mean, they do give some kind of explanations in a few of the episodes why all the intelligent life in the universe is humanoid and bipedal, but it's just kind of a cop out. I think I'm sure that there's extraterrestrials in the universe, but I think most of us resemble us at all. So anyway, enough of that. But what am I trying to say here? I don't even know how I got sidetracked into this. Yeah, I started talking about religion. I went on a big tangent, but What was I getting at? I think I was talking about the future. Oh yeah, I was talking about dreams. I really did get sidetracked. I guess you can tell that I'm a big sci-fi fan. Yeah, I've dreamt about the future a lot. You know, and yeah, I think we could still have a great future, but we have to help make it happen. You know, we have to help make the world a better. Oh yeah, I think the other thing I was going to say is the world's been getting better and better. I think I already said that. You know, but it's not a straight line. There's a lot of setbacks. I think Trump's election was a big setback. He wants to take us back, and I think he will for a while. But we can't let him. Don't let Trump or his supporters take us back to the 1950s because it wasn't a good time. I mean, I wasn't alive then, so I guess I don't know firsthand. I was alive in the early to mid 60s. You know, I remember the 60s pretty well. I don't remember the hippies because I wasn't around in that much. But I remember, here's what I remember from when I was a kid. You know, I grew up in the suburbs of Ann Arbor. You know, it was I think it was still the swell years back then. The 50s was the swell years. I'd say the swell years was probably from around the end of World War II, 1945, 46 to about the mid 60s. You know, swell wars years weren't so swell. I remember a lot of it. And I've seen a lot of movies, a lot of it. And, you know, people were pretty limited at that time. What I remember was that, I did have my parents did have a pretty nice suburban house in Ann Arbor, which was a nice community. But, we were kind of locked into our own little world. There was a lot of shit going on we didn't know about and we didn't care about. And don't forget that African Americans were very much second class citizens. They were segregated. They couldn't get good jobs. I mean, my parents have had African American housekeepers my whole life. We actually had a white one when I was a kid, but all the other housekeepers we had were black, African American. Um, in the 60s, the swell years, there were no black, hardly any black white collar people, they just weren't part of our society. Now they are, and I'm glad they are, you know. And women didn't have any rights either. Women were all housewives. My mom wasn't. My mom was a very successful doctor. But most women, I'd say at least 99% of all women, grown women in America, most of them were housewives, and those who weren't had very menial jobs. I mean, the spinsters and the old maids, they were like librarians. I mean, you probably remember the scene when Donna Reed becomes a librarian in Pottersville. That was supposed to show how horrible things were. She was better off as a happy housewife married to Jimmy Stewart. Women didn't have good jobs in the old days, and if they did, they were kind of frowned upon. I mean, a lot of them were secretaries, but secretaries were treated like shit too. And so there weren't good jobs for women either. And if you try to tell someone that a woman in the 50s that a woman was even going to run for president, they'd probably laugh at you. Women president were unthinkable in the 50s. Women in the government, women doctors, women lawyers, women whatever. I mean, yeah, there were a lot of female teachers, but teaching has been a very underrated profession. It still is. Women are just as capable as men. I've said this in a previous video. I'm all for women's liberation. I really hope we don't go back too far on women's rights. We've already gone back far enough by overturning Roe versus Wade. I'm for the ERA, by the way. I think we still haven't gone far enough with women's rights. I think we will have women's rights in America once we have the ERA, once women are getting equal pay for equal work and they're treated as equal everywhere, you know. And that doesn't mean we still can't have wonderful sex, wonderful love making, but it has to be mutual between the men and the women. I think we should have more sex, actually. Just because we have women's lib, just because women are equal, doesn't mean we can't have some great sex. I think women want that too. But we have to get rid of our double standard too. We can't call women who have a lot of sex sluts And we can't call men who have a lot of sex studs. That's a very bad double standard, you know. I mean, I think it's okay for both men and women to have multiple sex partners, you know. I think it's kind of normal. I don't think that our species is really fit for monogamy. But I don't want to go into that, you know. I mean, I do respect marriage. I want to get married now. I'm 62 years old. I've never been married. But you know, now I don't want a lot of sex anymore. I used to. I haven't had that much sex, but I don't feel like I need that much more. I've had enough. I mean, I haven't had enough. I want to get married and have some really great sex with my wife if possible. But I'm not going to look to cheat on her, and I'm not going to look for any other sex. But anyway, and I'd like to have a couple kids too, if possible. You know, because I want to carry out my genes. I don't want the Tear family line to end. It will if I don't have kids, because my sister never had any kids. You know, she died in a tragic car accident, age 45, about 15 years ago. You know, at least I'm still alive. And I hope to be around for a while. You know, I do have a little bit of cancer in my pancreas, but they caught it very early, and they probably can get rid of it. So I think I could probably live another 30 years or so. I don't know how long I'm gonna live though. Like I said, I can't predict the future, even my own future. But I know I'm gonna die someday, and I accept that. You know, and I'll be happy if I make it to 90. You know, I mean, you know, but I think what I do in the next 10 years is really critical. I mean, you know, I'm still very fit. It's funny, even though I'm 62 years old, I don't feel that old at all. Spiritually, I feel like I'm in my 20s. Physically, I feel like I'm about in my 40s. But I was never in all that great physical shape. I mean, I hated sports when I was a kid. I hated working out. I still do. The extent of my exercising now is walking 2 hours a day. I think walking is good enough exercise, at least for me. And I can perform. I can still perform. And I hope I can still perform at least for the next 10 years or so. Um, you know, I feel pretty good, you know? Like they used to say, I feel fit as a fiddle. So, you know, I'm gonna keep fiddling. But anyway, I think I've said enough. I'm just gonna conclude by showing you the cover slide. So yeah, let's make a better world. Here's some artistic view of a utopian world. It kind of close to what I view as a utopian world. Kind of looks a little like a modernized version of the Jetsons. You know, maybe we'll have this. I don't know when we're gonna have this. Maybe in the next 20, 30 years. I don't know. I know that Elon Musk has had a lot of ideas like this. I really don't like Elon Musk, though. I mean, he supported Trump, and he's a megalomaniac himself. I think we can make a better future, but it's not just technology; it's also society. We're not just progressing scientifically and technologically. We're also progressing morally and ethically and spiritually. So keep all that in mind. And we also have to save our planet. You know, I think climate change is inevitable, but maybe we can minimize the potential, risks of, potential for disaster. And I think we will get through whatever is coming, but we have to do the right things. So thank you for watching. Let's make a better world, and I'll see you guys next time.